Hello, this is Andy Graham of Hobo Traveler. I can find a $10 room, hotel room, in any country on the planet. I'm Andy Graham of Hobo Traveler. I've traveled for 14 perpetual years. I'm homeless. I basically am nomadic. I've traveled for 14 years. If I changed hotel rooms once a week for 14 years, that's 14 times 52 times. I've actually changed rooms probably more. Now I've slowed down in my as time's gone on, and I'm starting to stay for 1 month at a time in rooms. But I can find a room for $10, a hotel room that is great, that is livable, that is nice, that is pleasant, for $10 a day in any country on the planet. I'm going to try to do my coder that works for me, or my partner in India even wants to know how to find a hotel room. It's complicated in a way, but it's all dynamic. That's the problem. There is no one answer. Everybody wants one answer to what is kind of a relatively complicated, convoluted thing to do. To find a great place to live in one day is a little complicated. Okay, so you want to go on vacation, you want to do something, you want to minimize your cost and maximize your room. Today's lesson is about guidebooks. I'm going to try to do these real slow and go point by point as to what is the highest priority, and then work my way down to the more complicated ways of finding a room. Okay, the first thing I do when I'm going to a country, of course, is make sure I want to go there, right? Then I'm going to choose a city, of course, and then I'm going to say I want to go to Cabarete in Dominican Republic. What I would do is I would have a few choices. I'm going to go to the guidebook first. Now, two guidebooks that I've used, well, three. There's three guidebooks that I've used relatively enough to say I've used them. Is Footprints, Lonely Planet, and Rough Guides. The number one I use normally is Lonely Planet. Lonely Planet guidebook. So if you went to Hobo Traveler, you could click on guidebooks in the main page, and you could have a list of these, and it would send you the link, and hopefully you can figure out how to go to Amazon.com and buy them. If you're really cheap, just go to the library. Just go to the library and pick up Lonely Planet, Dominican Republic, or Switzerland, or whichever country you're going to. And if you really want to be specific, you could go to all three of them. Now, most vacations, they don't even need to buy a guidebook. All they got to do is go to the library, take the book out, even take it out and take it on vacation with them. So on a vacation, it's really quite easy, because you're only going to maybe 2 or 3 places. If you're going like me and you're going country, it's a little bit difficult to carry 50 guidebooks. Lonely Planet is making it so you can just buy chapters, and if you want, there's actually people uploading all this stuff on the internet, all these torrent systems and stuff. Okay, so you can download chapters of the Lonely Planet. Okay, now why do I say guidebook and I'm not saying the internet? The internet has got one goal, and that's to sell a specific hotel, while the guidebook goal is to give you a total experience. So they're basically trying to give you a better experience, while the internet is by far the worst way to find a hotel room. It's actually would be the best if you're as good as me. It's the worst if you're not. So the best way is to, with not enough experience, is just to go to the guidebook. And what are you going to do with the guidebook? I want to find out where the center of the village is. Okay, say I call this the center of the backpacker universe, or the center of the expat thing, colony, or whatever. I want to find where the epicenter of the tourist bubble is located. So the guidebook's going to give me a map, and it's going to basically give a big cluster of hotels, and then it's going to say the cheap hotels, and then you can see the area with the expensive hotels, and then the cheap hotels, and the backpacker hotels, and all these different things. You can have price range. If you use Lonely Planet, Rough Guide, or Footprints, they're going to do this. If you use the more expensive ones, I don't know, Let's Go would work, but there's guidebooks that are just off the wall, that are just strictly written as advertisements that you should just heed. Unless, you know, you're just a millionaire and you want to just live in the best of the best, which is, you know, that's what they're for. But generally, if you're trying to, you know, it's easier to start out at the bottom and work your way up. Okay, so I want to find the center. And I also want to know what the cheapest room is. I want to know what the starting price of, you know, listed in the guidebook, because that is not the starting price, but that is probably double the starting price. So if the cheapest hotel or hostel or whatever I'm finding is $20, then I know that I can probably get one for $8. Now, people get all hung up on this price thing. It's not the price of one day that's important, it's the price of 10 days. So if you pay $20 for the first day and you pay $6 on every day after, it's the average of all those prices. You got to do your math, and this is, you know, then you're going to be in this problem of changing money. Right here, I'm in the Dominican Republic right now, and the price is 38. I think it's 38 pesos to the dollar, U.S. dollar. So you got to be able to get that clear in your mind, that when you're looking at the price, I mean, some guidebooks will tell you in dollars, and then according to how well they update them, you know, but you can do it. Now, every room on the planet is negotiable. Even in the United States, you can walk up to somebody and say, hey, I don't have any money. I only want to do this. This is not, you have to be brave enough to ask for the price. I walk in, and if I want a room for $10, I'm going to tell them I'll pay them $2. Then when we negotiate to 10, I'm there. Okay. The guidebook's going to tell you the infrastructure. It's going to give you a map of the city, and it's going to do that. Now, obviously, 90% of your travels are 99% of the people that are traveling are going to a location that's in the guidebook. So don't. Now, I'm going to have people say, you know, I don't use guidebooks, and I don't understand this arrogance. It's like saying, I'll take one of the best tools and I'll ignore it. It's like saying I'm going to ignore the internet because I just told you that it's the worst place to do it. It's all of the things together. So the internet, your friends, referrals, whatever. But the guidebook's going to be your first and number one source, mainly because it's going to tell you where the center is. And then what you're going to be able to do is get an idea of the city, and you know where the cheap hotels. So what you want to do in ways, the guidebook's going to say this cheap hotels, and what happens is other hotels will build up around that hotel, and then I'll try to undercut that one on price. So maybe the 3 hotels are actually cheaper, half the price, and better hotels than the one that's actually in the guidebook. And then you got to get good at understanding that all the different problems to do it. But it's the amount of time you spend is the amount of money you're going to spend. If you're going to spend 10 minutes looking for a room, you're obviously going to pay a lot. If you want to spend 10 hours, you're going to get a cheaper room. Now, who wants to spend 10 hours looking for a room? If you're going to stay there for a month, it might be worth it. If you're going to stay there for a day, it's probably not. So it's the pros and cons. But the guidebook's the number one way. Now, once you find a guidebook, you can get on, you know, you can get on hostelworld.com, you find the name of the thing, and then you could actually get a reservation if you're really afraid. I never get a reservation. Never. Because all the reservation does is reserve a price that I don't want. I always land on my feet and find a room. But I always land first thing in the morning. I don't arrive at 6 o'clock at night unless it's just no way to stop it. That's my worst case scenario. Then I'll get a room for a night, and then it's back to the average thing. I might get the cheapest room in the Lonely Planet, get a reservation. I might get on, call them up or whatever. I hardly ever I don't get a reservation, but I mean, I know which one I'm going to, and I make sure they got a room, and I tell them I'm coming, and then hope that there's an option. Like if that hotel is full, I got 2 or 3 lined up, so I'll have a little card in my pocket. I'll have 3 hotels listed. I get off, the taxi takes me to the first one, then I normally walk to the other 2, and then I survey them real quick, and then I take the room. I may pay $25 a night. Then the next morning I walk around for 5 hours and find a room for $5. It's the average. Okay. But the guidebook is your first start. Now, I know you got families, I know you got children, you got all this stuff, and you don't like this insecurity. And that's where you go to getting the reservation. Now, the reservation systems that work right now are, the cheapest one is probably Hostel World, which is really tricky and really not transparent, and it's really thing, but it does have the hotels. I mean, you can use kayak.com to reserve a room, which again is tricky. Everything's a thing to hook you into doing the wrong thing and therefore make a bad decision and reserve a room for 10 days and whatever. At best, a reservation for one night is all I think you need on the planet, except for, in the highest of high season and in the most busy. I mean, if you're going to Paris in the middle of the highest season, yeah, you're going to have a headache and you're going to have to do more things. But generally, it's one night's reservation. That's all I've ever done. I don't know if I've ever got a reservation for only one day. For 14 years of travel and a reservation more than one night, I don't think I've ever done it. Okay, first things first, start with the guidebook. Go to the library, pick up Rough Guide, Let's Go, Footprints, rough things. Actually, probably don't know it, but I actually wrote, rewrote some chapters in the Rough Guide West Africa for my friend that was the editor of Rough Guide, and I got 13 photos of West Africa. I wrote him and said, Bogotanga's screwed up. You don't even have this stuff. But it was interesting. But the guidebooks are the right place to start. Okay, lesson 1, guidebooks. When you understand the guidebooks, we'll go to lesson 2. I'll try to do lesson 2 tomorrow and try to keep this prioritized. Andy, Hobo Traveler in Sosua, Dominican Republic. It's 6th of January 2012. And one day at a time here. Thanks.